Members of the company, this is your Places call. Places, please. Places for the top of the podcast. Places, please.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the glitz and not-so-glam of Broadway, education, and everyday life with Uncommon Sense. Join hosts Christopher Smith and Sharna Lopez as they bring you the best stories and shenanigans that seemingly prove how elusive common sense can really be. So take a little time for yourself to hang out with the dynamic duo Charnopher. And no leaving early, because you might just miss that 11 o'clock number.
Stand by music. Music, go.
Uncommon sense, the 11 o'clock number. And we are Charnopher.
The moon.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I was just talking about my ring light looking like the moon.
But
My
also,
bad.
do you realize that the moon does not shine light? It reflects light.
Christopher, don't be so smart, okay? It's a Tuesday that feels like the never-ending week of the year, and I'm tired. That is very smart. I love that. I want to do an episode. I just thought about it. Like, are you smarter than a fifth grader questions? And that would be, I guarantee you, Sebastian knows that. And I'm over here like, what?
What?
I'm just your parent. Don't worry.
I've only
I'll
been
get
on
you
this
through
earth
life.
for 11 years now.
Okay, so then should I call it the sun, Christopher?
Well,
ring
yeah,
light?
that's what I was saying. Because I always talk
Glowing
about when
on me like the
things,
sun?
yeah, it's like when I have like a bright light, I'm like, why is the sun on me? Like, come on, turn it down.
Yeah, I got to get a better ring light situation. For those of you who are listening, this is very boring because you can't see. We're not talking about ring lights. We're not talking about the moon today. In fact,
We are not.
today we are going to be talking about technology
And how it impacts our
And-
life on the daily.
and just some common sense moments that I feel like should fall in place when we come up against struggles and challenges with technology, and they just don't. The reason being, today my day sort of started off on a bad technology foot.
Oh,
If you
I
can use
hate
that.
bad technology days because that could be anywhere from completely like spilled the coffee on the computer and the hard drive is dead to
Yeah. Oh,
like I can't remember my password, which we'll talk more about too.
oh my gosh. Yes. Or like the one, we've had, because we're now in 30s, our episode.
Yeah,
we're
I
like
think this
episode
is
31
episode
or 32,
33,
something like
I
that.
think.
Yeah. So we've had several moments, and I kind of feel like I was going to use the term Bonnie and Clyde. That's not right. Laverne and
Ooh.
Shirley. I don't know. Like, of technology. I am not. And you can say what you think about me, Christopher, but as like a self-reflection, I feel like I am okay with technology. And actually, some people come to me for technology, and I'm like, what's happening, friends? I know enough, but
Right.
clearly you are more of the tech guy of our
Our duo.
why would I want to call us Laverne and Shirley?
I don't know, but
That's
let's
not-
do Laverne and
that's not
Shirley,
right.
or we can do what's the one where they drive off the cliff? I don't want to drive off a cliff, but
That's
what's
Laverne
that
and
one?
Shirley, right?
No, that's
Yeah,
Thelma
that's
and
Laverne-
Louise. Thelma and Louise.
Oh, Thelma and Louise. Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
Or Bert and Ernie. I was trying to think of like two, I don't know,
Right.
Crutchy and Jack. Who are we? Come on, we got to figure this out.
We'll figure it out. Although we're our own
Anyway,
original
you are-
Charnopher.
Yes, Sharna and Fur.
It's like Christy with fur.
Oh my gosh, that's what my kids call Christopher. But you are definitely more of the technology person. However, I feel pretty adequate and I'm able to problem solve and work things, but there are some days and some instances where I do not. And I think even there was one day we were filming, and your thing, you had to like shut everything down and start
Yes.
over. I just feel like sometimes technology is against us. It's against
It
us.
is.
Or there's a reason it like doesn't want you to do whatever you're trying to do.
It's run by aliens. And then
It's
don't even get me
insane.
started on AI. Don't even get me started on that.
right?
AI.
Dude.
But I mean, you might make it.
That should be a bonus episode to this, or a secondary episode. We should we
AI.
should put out this tech one and then do an AI one.
I don't. We'll see. It might get thrown in here. We'll find out. But yes, I agree with that assessment, Sharna. I actually think you're quite proficient with technology. Like, you're not.
Thank you, Christopher.
You may not be the tech guru, but I think you're highly functioning.
I'd love to be fully transparent for our listeners that you guys don't know how many times though I've texted Christopher, help. How do I do this
Like
thing?
this morning.
And you can give, like this morning, you can give me 9 different versions of how to maybe accomplish what I need. But this morning was so frustrating because I was prepared. I got up early and got set up and I was ready, and I'm like, okay, I was going to use an iPad instead of my computer, and I was going to use it, and I had it all ready, and Christopher had walked me through some different steps on how to connect things, and it still wasn't working. And honestly, it really put me in a bad mood. So I'm hoping this is gonna turn it around so I can vent about my technology.
Yeah,
because
vent it.
Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me, iPad? I'm just trying to record a podcast. Please don't hate me.
That's all. I just want to talk. I just want to talk to my friend and all the people. That's all.
And I find that it often happens when you need it the most, right? So like,
yes.
if it was something where, oh, I could do this another day, or the worst is when it happens in class, right? Something with your computer, like when you're teaching, if you're going to show slides, or the projector's not working, or you're trying to get music or something, it often happens. At our school, we have different buildings, but one of the main buildings that we rehearse in has terrible Wi-Fi, which is what I blame everything on. But I also just think technology in general in that building is so awful. And then I'm trying to like link something or show kids or students, and there's so many times that I've just been like, whatever. I have to just be flexible and pivot, because in that moment, I don't have time. Pivot. I don't have time to stop and mess with it. And I think that's where the frustration comes, right? If it's Saturday and you're hanging out trying to figure out your technology, that's different.
Right. You're like, fine, I'll do it later. No big
middle.
deal. Well, that totally reminds me of a story I have with technology, and it's amazing when it works, and it is a literal disaster when it doesn't. So I was music directing Rent, which is one of my favorite shows to music direct.
Yes.
Now, about 11 years ago. And we were on stage. We used this was back in the earlier days of it, so I've still been scarred, but I trust it better. I used this program called Mainstage, which is an Apple native product that has all the sounds. It's amazing. It's basically like having 50 million keyboards in your computer. And I was running it on my rig, and I had my brother actually playing the second keyboard that was running it. And all of a sudden, near the end of Act 1, my entire computer just locks, freezes, does not move, cannot get anything to do anything. I'm like, in the middle of a show here, panicking. So I get on the headset. I'm like, boost keys 2. And then I run around the pit, grab my music, and go start playing. Who knows what sounds it was supposed to be. But I was like, just put it on piano and let's make it through the first act. But, that moment, I will never forget the terror and the brain swirling of trying to figure out what to do.
Yes. And I don't want to speak for Becca, who's a musical director that I use often at school, but she had a similar situation. I can't remember what show, but it just crashed.
Yeah.
I remember her being like, the program crashed. And so she was trying to restart the whole thing. Now, fortunately, it wasn't in the middle of a song, if I'm recalling correctly, and she had to quickly reinstall it or whatever it was. But she, after that experience, always has this backup thing, because you're absolutely right. It's like you don't know, and something like that where you are live and you've got to find a solution fast.
Yeah.
Because that's it. The show must go on. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the same reason I get terrified.
No, go ahead.
I said it's the same reason I get terrified using like MTI has their player that you run through a phone No offense. I know the phones are just little computers. I get it. But there's something about my mind that I'm like, I don't trust you. I don't trust your app. Right?
Yes.
Like, there's something
Yes,
about it
right? And it's
that I'm like, well,
anything,
what about when it
anytime something
crashes?
could just
Yeah.
happen. You know what? I do remember one story. It's the very first time I directed Legally Blonde. No, second time. At a studio, and it was younger kids, and it was a summer show, and we did like a juniorized version. Ooh, I just made up a word, juniorized. But the beginning of that show,
Good
for
thing
those
that's not
of
my
you who
pet
don't
peeve.
know, it's it's like it has that guitar, right?
Mhm.
And then she pops out. She's like, "Dear L, he's a lucky guy." Starting the show, we were using, I think it was MTI and the player track or whatever, and it would like get through that last part of the overture, and she would pop out, and she'd said, "Dear L," and it was like, meow. And the first time it happened, she kept singing. But the
Right.
music didn't come back in. And so then she
Right.
like stopped. We're right at the top of the show. And I chime in. I'm like, "We're having technical difficulties, everyone. Thanks for your patience." And the girls started to get, it happened 3 times.
3
in a row.
times?
Something in 3 times. Something in that track. Like it just, we don't know. We never found out. We never found out what happened. And then on the 4th time, it finally decided. So the rest of that show, I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, is it going to happen again? Is it
Yeah.
just going to stop in the middle? You know?
Yep.
Oh, terrifying. Very, very nerve wracking. What I was going to say is I teach broadcast journalism, and they use technology, just in terms of like cameras, equipment
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times these students go out and they are interviewing people or they're covering a news story and they don't check to make sure their shot came out or that there's audio,
Mm.
and they will come back in to edit and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you can't hear anybody." And I'm like, "Y'all, you have to be on top of it. You can't put all of your faith in the technology. Like you have
Mm-mm.
to be checking, do one shot, go back and look at it, make sure it's not blurry or whatever it may be. Do an interview, ask a couple of questions, tell them, hold on just a second, I want to make sure everything's set up correctly. So that way you can hear, because there's been a handful of time that kids will come back and they're just like, "Well, you can't hear anything they said. Can I put subtitles in there?" I'm like, I mean, you can,
You might have to.
but lesson learned, my friend. Lesson learned. You got to check it for sure.
Yeah. Also be aware of your surroundings when you're doing that. I watched an interview on Broadway.com where he was doing it in like a really crowded area. And I was like, first, it was just so live, and he had his microphone like a good foot away from his mouth. It was like, no. You need to like eat that mic, because otherwise you're gonna get all the room noise and no way to get it out. At least like if you got a clear signal of your voice, you can like put some filters on it and help. But that was which is another thing.
Totally. And I think that's knowing your equipment too, for sure. And I think you and I could go on and on about tech in theater and that type of thing. I want to circle back to like tech computers and tech knowing. Look, I will say I don't do tech for a job. It's not my job. But I will say the job that I do, that I've been asked to do, that I've been trained to do, I feel like I do quite well. Sure, everybody has their areas that you need room for growth, improvement, whatnot. But for the most part, I know what I'm doing. I feel like I do a decent or good job.
I feel like I can tell you that
had-
you do a good job. You do a
Thank
good
you.
job from the outside looking in.
I have had, and this is even before where I work now. So I'm not making it a specific group of people. I
No.
just feel like tech people in general are very smart, to be honest.
They are.
But I feel like maybe some of the common sense that we would
Is
hope
gone.
an average.
It's gone.
And here's maybe why, Christopher. Now, you know what? I didn't even think about this until we were like talking through it. I think their brains, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I think their brains work differently, right? I really do.
Yeah.
I think that they look at things in a different lens. And I don't want to say than the average person, but the average person who is going to be using the technology. And it's so frustrating when you're not treated, but when the challenge or the situation or the discussion, you're just like, there's a barrier. I feel like they don't understand what you need or how to help you. And there's like a strange tech brain world that I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like they're not being helpful, even though I know they want to be, and it just frustrates me beyond.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing where it's almost like it's a different language, and I think there's a bit of a language barrier almost, where they come at something from one perspective that we just don't have, as non-tech trained people, but also not in their defense. It is their job to figure out how, just like it's a teacher's job to figure out how to reach the students, it is the technology person's job to figure out how to reach the layperson and make their stuff work for them. And
Yes.
when I know more than these technology people about, and I'm just going to make a very sweeping generalization here, most tech people in organizations, whether it's education or other organizations that I've dealt with, seem to be less versed in Apple products, both computers or iPads or other iOS devices. And they try, I feel like they want to do things, but when I'm watching them do things as a born and bred Apple human, literally, I'm like, what's happening? Like, don't tell me you can't do that when I've already done that 500 times in my life. Clearly, you're incorrect. And don't tell me you can't put another user on a computer because you need to give me some other user's password. I'm like, what? No, just make a new user.
It just,
What?
and you know what's funny?
What?
I'm so grateful that you feel this because I feel it, but then I sometimes second guess myself, like, oh, I just don't know. I'm not a tech person. But then I'm
No,
like,
I know.
I do know, and I know you know. So the fact that you know, and I have another colleague whom you know who is the same way. He's very, and usually you're the two people that I go to before I even contact the tech person because I'm like, you guys, especially with an Apple product. Now I will say, and listeners, Charno fans, if you want to chime in and you have any insight into this, I will say Apple products, what I've been told by tech people is that it's more of a creative thing. So like musicians and filmmakers and artists use Apple products more. And I want to be like, that's because they're better. But I don't say that. And I respect their love of Microsoft.
I don't.
But
I don't. And I'm unapologetic about it.
It's so interesting. Because I learned on Microsoft, like my first exposure to computers and any word processing and all that kind of stuff was technology was, and I think that's my age and our generation was through Microsoft. But then the second Apple products were introduced and sort of took over the world. I mean, we don't. I should look up the actual statistic. But there are a gamillion people with iPhones and I don't know, 4 with Samsungs. So let's just be real about it, okay?
In America, it is highly, even I think I just read recently in the world, iPhone has, according to one thing, come up and almost edged out Samsung in the whole world. So, and other places, especially in Asia, tend to be heavily Samsung. And so the fact that overall it's moving up.
Yeah. And if you're an average human, and no offense, if someone loves their Samsung, good on you.
Absolutely.
But I'm just saying in terms of an organization, if the majority of your employees and the people that you are going to be working with and or for are Apple-based users, and most of them, their personal computers are probably Macs, right?
Yeah.
Even if the computers that we're using at school or whatever it may be, when we have a question about Apple products, because we do also use those, I feel like they should have the information and the knowledge. Now, does it need to be their favorite product? No. Do they also need to understand Microsoft because those are the computers that we use also? Yes. But you're the tech person. It doesn't say you're the Microsoft tech person.
That's right.
Right? Like
that's right.
You're the tech person. And it goes to go with my phone or with a printer or whatever it may be. It's all encompassing. And I feel like they have such a hatred for Apple that they're just like mad about it or whatever. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Why do tech people not like Apple? Is
That
there
I don't know.
something that their brain doesn't work with Apple? Like they're like Microsoft is cuter. I don't know. Like What?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
weird.
for years, I do know that people like the whole iPhone versus Android debate. A lot of people that loved Android love it because of its flexibility and customizability. Is that a word? Is that the
Okay.
word?
Yeah,
Which I get.
customization, customizability.
I I totally get that. I don't care enough because it's
I
no, I
don't care.
don't.
Nobody
I love
cares.
I love the idea of customizing. I do, but with customizing comes a few problems with where you have to open up. I know I'm getting like in the weeds, but you have to like open up the app store to third party people that you can't vet their products as well. You have to, it's just less regulated, which opens up problems. And also, Apple, bless them on their journey, sometimes takes 90 years to adopt things that I'm like, why did it take you 90 years to get here where Samsung has been
Yes.
or Android has been for 10 years?
See, this is the kind of stuff that I don't know. That I'm like,
And
ooh, you're
yeah.
my
And
techie
so
mind.
sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's money driven. Sometimes I tend to be optimistic with them, with Apple a little bit, that it's quality driven. If they don't feel like they
Yeah.
can accomplish it at the highest quality, they're not going to implement it. So I do give them the benefit of the doubt with that, but they're also a multi-billion-dollar company now, so profits,
Yeah.
it's a real thing.
I also
But
think too,
anyway,
it's good to know both, right? So
yeah,
that's my thing. I'm not. I prefer Apple products, but I also need to know how to do stuff on a Microsoft computer. Like
yeah,
I've never had an Android phone or a Samsung phone, but like, our kids use Chromebooks at school. So we need
yeah,
to know how that interface works. I need to know how my computer at school works. I also need, I think
yeah.
it's the more just being well-rounded and versed in it. And the
Mm-hmm.
other thing that I think trips me out is Apple products. And I remember reading early on, like when the iPad first came out,
Okay.
how they were doing a bunch of tests on kindergarteners, like the user
Uh-huh.
ability. Oh my gosh, we're making up words
User
today. But like
interface.
they tested, what'd you say?
User interface.
Yes, they tested it on young people because they wanted it to be natural and easy. And I
Mm-hmm.
find that Microsoft does not have that. And so my thing is, if tech people know Microsoft, Apple should be easy for them to adopt. And those devices, I feel like they have some secret hatred of
They do.
Apple and they
They
don't want to
do.
try and learn it.
They do because I think they feel personally
I don't
attacked
know.
because Apple doesn't like Microsoft. But also,
Right?
again, maybe in their defense, sometimes like if you know how to do something one way and you're just doing it that way forever, and this other way is completely opposite, even if it's way easier, it's still something tricky to wrap your mind around. But yes, I didn't
That's
know about
true. That's a
I
really good point.
yeah, but I didn't know they did those specific tests with the interface and stuff, but that's really cool.
Yeah,
And it
and
doesn't
I just
surprise me.
remember totally, right? Because it is, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? Natural, right?
Intuitive?
It's a
It's
natural way of
intuitive.
finding intuitive. Christopher, thank goodness you're here for
They-
me today.
That's what they pride themselves on. And you know it's intuitive when you can give your phone to a 3-year old, or in my case, a 2.5-year old, and they can
Yep.
basically navigate. They can't read
Yeah.
it, but they can tell, oh, if I tap this, it'll open. Like,
And I think that is also, this is a kind of a sidebar, but I find the same thing with websites.
mm,
I cannot stand when I go to a website and I can't find something. I'm like, okay, I am an educated, I have a master's
yeah.
degree human being. If I get on your website and I can't find something, you suck. Like, there is no reason in the
Have you been
world
on our
why,
website,
with all
Sharna?
the technology, our website, like you and me,
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually haven't.
You need to go. Okay, so you'll be my litmus test. Go on there.
Gosh, that's embarrassing and so funny all at the same time. Oh my gosh. Yes, I've been on there every day, Christopher.
Every
I check
day.
it out every day. Okay, I'm gonna go on today. Maybe not today. I
Yeah,
have a
and
very
make
busy day.
sure
I'm gonna
make
go
sure
on
that
at
it
some
works
point.
well for us. See, you can be my
Yeah, because I
tester.
think that that's it. It's intuitive, and if you have devices and things that are naturally run that way, it especially in our technology driven and forward society, it is so frustrating when you come across something that you're just like, and this is going to bring me into passwords because I know you want to talk about that. It's so frustrating when you find that roadblock where you're just like, what in the actual world is happening? This should be very easy. Why is it so hard? Passwords. You want to talk about passwords, Christopher?
I'm going to do two of them. I'm going to do passwords and two-factor authentication because passwords. So you have a love of
That's how I feel about it. Okay, podcast episode is over. Podcast episode is over. Oh my gosh. Okay. I feel like there needs to be an SNL skit. Somebody who's on SNL, please listen to us and do an SNL skit about passwords or two-factor authenticator moments of our day that are horrible.
Oh, and it's all day, every day. So passwords. Let's start with passwords. First of all, this is going to be like an informative moment. Everybody, please, you've heard it
Public
from everybody.
Service announcement.
Please, please, please do not reuse passwords. Please do not use passwords that you can remember. Please.
That's what I do, Christopher.
I know.
Christopher,
I know.
that's what I do.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. I'm not mad. I'm absolutely not mad. I just want to help. So make sure you don't write down your passwords on something that someone can steal. My favorite is when, I'm not going to name who does this and throw them under the bus. Do not put your computer login password, like to log into your computer, on a Post-it note on your computer. Don't do it. Do not recommend.
Oh my gosh.
Otherwise, just take the password off.
Okay, wait, hold on. I'm going to chime in for a second. When we first started having to get a lot of passwords, I literally had a document on my computer, a Word document that was like logins and passwords. And now I'm like, it's not that. I've changed it. But like, what? Why was I so special?
So did I. Now, there is a moment, especially, again, we know I'm an Apple person. In Apple, the Apple ecosystem, there is secured notes, which you could use. I actually used to have a whole document in secured notes. So it's behind another layer of a master password. It's essentially the original password manager. I do recommend, if you're an Apple person, to use, I know everybody seems to hate Safari. I don't love Safari, but I don't hate Safari, the web browser, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Everybody's like, ooh, Chrome, let's use Chrome. I'm like, no. But they have the built-in, hard pass for me. They have a built-in password manager called Keychain, and I recommend you using it. And because if you have devices like an iPhone or an iPad, it syncs across all of those, and then you don't have to remember passwords. But I have
a question about that, Christopher, and this may be more of like a Sharna and Christopher have
discussion.
Lunch or margaritas and we figure it out. I feel like I've set that up on certain websites on my phone, like when I'm creating a new password or whatever, and and thanks to you, honestly, where I'm like, oh cool, it gives me the option, and you use like the one they say. The problem I have run into is that there have been times where then I go back to that website and it doesn't, like, it hasn't saved it. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I know I did it, and it's not
it
there.
is annoying because there are some times where, whether it's the way the website's set up or something, it just does not communicate it properly and it does get lost. So then there is workarounds, and I will sit down with you and show you how to do that for guarantees. And it does usually require you resetting the password, which luckily is not a big deal anymore. It's usually as simple as an email. But that is annoying. I also recommend, and they are not a sponsor yet, but LastPass. If you want a paid service, they are excellent, and they sync across all devices.
LastPass?
And they sync across all devices, whether it's Windows, Mac, iPhones, Android, whatever. And basically the way they work, and any password manager is great, but you have a master password. You only have to remember one password, and then you are in, and it has access to all your passwords that you save in there.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? Honestly, I used to, and I said honestly, I'm going to be honest. I used to kind of poke fun at older people. I feel like now maybe I'm in that category. And they'd be like, I can't remember my password. I'm like, how do you not remember your password? Like, but I can see now with how much we do that, where before it was like, you have one password for this and one password for that. Then it was like more and more and more and more and more. And now I can see it, where the frustration is like, I mean, I had it was Aunt Kim over the summer was so annoyed with just trying. She couldn't remember her password and then trying to reset it. And like, it's frustrating. It is frustrating. And again, kind of circling back to the beginning of this episode when we were like, it always happens when you're in a hurry. Like, I'm just trying to get in and find my kid's homework on this website. And now it wants me to like, do the hokey pokey and turn myself around before it's going to let me go in there. And it's like, God bless. I just want to see what reading pages,
Yes.
Oy.
And the captchas, those kill me. The captchas. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you have to select all the things that are like a motorcycle. I'm like, and then there's like,
why? What does that help do?
So
what does that help
theoretically, what it's supposed to do is keep it from being, making sure you're a human, because a computer can't answer those questions. Whereas other types of things, like if someone's trying to hack into your account or something, like it just sends it through a password cracker that cycles through whatever. So it's another step that you have to interact with in a way that at this point a computer cannot. Although with AI,
when we do, what'd you say? What'd you say?
I said, although with AI, as big as that's becoming and how everything's functioning with that, we'll see how long that lasts.
Dude, that is literally, I mean, that's going to be our next episode. For sure. I'm excited to talk about that, honestly. And I'm going to do a little bit of research because I have a lot of feels about it. I'm excited. I do want to, before we go, I want to talk about the two-factor authenticator.
Oh, two-factor authenticator. Yes. So there is definitely.
Hate it with a fiery passion.
So
I'll tell you how I really feel.
I know. So you're not sure? You're not sure whether you love it or hate it? Okay, great. I
feel about it. I mean,
I
can take it or leave it.
So I actually, as a concept, really like it because we're
not friends. I'm leaving.
She's out.
She's out.
And I'll finish the episode, everybody. Have a good day, Sharna. So, the reason I like it is I do like the added security, because it also helps people that are terrible at making their passwords and use the same password for everything. Because even if you have the password, you have to have another thing physically with you that has a code that you need. Now, a lot of things have used, and I dislike this, a lot of things have used just text as a two-factor. And the reason I dislike it is because it's not as secure as having an authenticator app, because people can, and I know this is in the weeds, but it does happen. People can get their phone number spoofed fairly easily if someone wants to, and then they can just get that code and hack into your bank account. Nobody needs that.
Yep.
And so that's why I actually get mad that most banking still do text, which is weird. I'm like, use an authenticator app, you weirdos. Now, there are different authenticator apps.
Yeah, we have an authenticator app at school
Yes.
for our Aries system.
Correct.
But then for our email, it's text. Yeah.
Well, depends if you set it up that way. Mine is authenticator app.
Oh, that's
for
how
both.
I set it up. And look, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I was very strong with my words.
She came in hot.
I hate it. Here's why. If you know Sharna, I believe that I am one of the most impatient people in the world. Other people say that I'm not, that they're like,
no, we are both
patient.
extremely impatient when it comes to functioning.
Yes, I just want to go. I want to move 100 miles a minute. I want it done. I want to go. I want this. I want that. And I think that I've gotten used to it now because we've had it around for several years. So I've gotten used to it. But I understand the purpose of it. I do. I just, again, I just want to open my email. Or I just want to open my thing. I don't want to have to
and especially
through
it feels
all this
extra. It feels extra annoying when it's on a computer you're on all the time. Like that shouldn't happen. Like something. Now I get the classroom ones, but like office computers, like since you have your own computer that nobody uses, there should
nobody
be an
else
easy
uses
override.
that computer.
Yeah. So,
but again,
anyway,
that would be a very difficult request. So
yes,
I'll leave it be.
I know. Heaven forbid. So I think that there's a lot of authenticator apps. Google has probably the most common one. There's a Microsoft Authenticator. I like to use, and we'll talk more about this off the air, Sharna, Authy, Authy. And I like that one. It's free.
Like authorization or authorize.
Correct.
Authy.
I like that one because it's web-based and similar to like LastPass, you have a master password to get into it. So you can log into it online. You can put it on your phone, which is where most authenticator apps work. You can put it on your watch, and that's why I want to talk to you about it. And
cool.
things like that. So it's a little more convenient. And Google is probably technically more secure because it only lives on your device. But I got screwed by that once because something happened with my phone and it got messed up in the app, and then none of my two-factor worked, and and one of them was really challenging to reset without that. And so that's when I moved to Authy, because then it's in more than one place, which is technically less secure, but also I need to get into my account.
I feel like I need you to be my like technology life manager. Is that a position? Is that like something that you could make a career out of? Like
Maybe.
You're going to manage people's technology life?
Yeah, so I'll be a concierge tech manager.
Well, that sounds better.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Anybody want to hire Christopher? Anybody?
I'm here.
LastPass,
I'm
Authy,
ready.
come on. He just gave y'all a shout out. We'd be happy to put in some ads. We'd be happy to put in some advertisements into our episodes. So LastPass, you got your number one fan over here.
Yeah, I actually, because my father-in-law, bless his heart, hates using Safari, and I don't know how he got that bee in his bonnet. I think it was my brother-in-law, but he's a Chrome through and through, and I'm like, disagree. But whatever. If you're going to use Chrome, then you're going to need to pay for LastPass, or you can have the free version.
I use Chrome.
Safari. I know. I don't judge you for it, but
and
I'm
you
like,
still like me. Thank you for being so accepting.
Yes. But so he pays for LastPass because I was like, you may not use the same password for 900 things, including your bank, and the other thing that people do is they'll take like their password, like let's say it's Charnopher 54 is their password, and then they'll be like Charnopher 55 for this other one. I'm like, changing one thing is not make it more secure.
Or Charnopher 54
same.
exclamation mark.
Right.
Right.
Or or turn the C into a cent sign in Charnopher.
Yep.
Or like it is technically different, but any password cracker is going to try all of those types of things immediately.
Right.
That's how,
I actually think that's more confusing. To be honest, like is it this one? Did I make this one 55 or is this one 54 or whatever? Like I do like the idea of having it generate the password for me and I just save it.
Mm-hmm.
I think again, I've just had a handful of occasions where it doesn't remember it, and then I'm like, had I just chosen my own password, I would remember it, and I wouldn't be doing all this.
As technology is progressing, we're at the precipice of another shift. About 2 years ago, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, Apple started doing passkeys, which is as they get more common, we're moving more towards a passwordless online experience. So it's kind of like two-factor and password managing in one, because it's all through your device and through your biometric, whatever it is, authorization, whether it's fingerprint or Face ID or whatever. So we are moving that direction, which I will love. I already set it up for all of my Google accounts, because then I'm like, you don't have to have a password. You just say, yes, use my face to let me in.
I love that. I'm down with that.
So
I like that.
So hopefully we'll get there sooner than later in the next few years. But until then, don't use the street name that you grew up on, 1234. Okay?
Just a little PSA, not PSO.
PSO.
PSA from Christopher. My brain is on school brain. School brain. All right, Christopher, you wanna close us out?
Sure. Thanks for listening, everybody. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at Charnopher Official. And go check out uncommonpod.com, including Sharna. And make sure it works well for you. Make sure it works well. Make sure it's easy. I'm open to suggestion. On that note,
Charnopher out. Oh my gosh, I haven't been to our website. I'm super embarrassed.
You should be.
This concludes another episode of Uncommon Sense. If you're ready for more of this fresh, hilarious, and unique perspective on the world of entertainment, education, and life, be sure to subscribe right now to catch every episode. If you gasped, laughed out loud, or even snorted, share the show with your friends and aspiring entertainers because, let's be real, sharing is caring. For more Charnopher, tune in to their witty insights by checking out the website uncommonpod.com or connecting on social media. Tune in next week and get the real insider scoop on another episode of Uncommon Sense.